how's it going, Exile? So, I'm sorry it took me so long to get this late game update for my Ice Bomb build out, but unfortunately I was not feeling well. But regardless, now I have the build done for you. So let's first look at the showcase. Right now you will see tier 4 Xesht, which is, fairly easy, but it still takes like a little bit of time like all the other bosses. So this is definitely not like a YOLO one-shot boss killer build. It takes a little bit of time to do the tier 4 Pinnacle bosses. Tier 3 Pinnacle bosses go very fast, but tier 4 definitely take a little while. So we're going through the showcase for various bosses. If you don't want to watch them all, you can just check the description down below. You will find the link to the Mobalytics Planner, and the Mobalytics Planner also has the path of building. So right now you're seeing tier 4 King of the Mist, which is definitely one of the more annoying fights for this build, because, the tornadoes will just insta-gip your minions, and also he keeps teleporting out of your curses, which is really annoying, and then you have to find him again. Luckily, your skeletons give you like a trace where he is, because I feel like the fight is very cluttered, and it's hard to even see where the boss is. Anyway, so the fight is fairly easy, even though I almost died. My Omen saved me there. I don't even know what hit me, but I think you will want to have max chaos resistance for this fight, most likely. So next on the list here is tier 4 Olroth, which is the expedition boss. The boss seems to have like some kind of a natural cold resistance, so it feels in general a little bit more chewy to kill this boss. Also, it has like a decent amount of area of effect killing your minions, but I felt like, the boss killing my minions was not the biggest issue. It was more like annoying because I was wearing the Bones of Olroth boots to get like more minions, and the most annoying was really just dodging the abilities. The damage output wasn't very high, so I wasn't really in danger of dying all that much with this boss. So that was the showcase for some tier 4 bosses. I didn't really get to do Arbiter yet because I don't have the currency right now, but you would probably want to run a blink on weapon swap. Right now we're just looking at some random map bosses we encountered, which are generally no problem at all. You don't even need to switch any skill gems or whatever. So yeah, this is the full DPS update on my Ice Bomb guides. I consider this build final for now. Make sure to check the description down below for the Mobalytics Planner and also the path of building. And now without further ado, let's start with the actual guide, and as always we start with the skill gems. Alright, taking a look at the skills, we made quite a few changes to make this build much more powerful. So we still run Malice. Technically, I think if you have a Rattling Scepter to get an extra 7% damage from your muster, is probably not going to be much worse than Malice. But I think Malice gives you the greatest benefit in a boss fight scenario. If you're just, mapping and you don't really care about bosses, and map bosses don't really matter so much, they don't have a lot of HP, so I'm really talking about like tier 3 or tier 4 Pinnacle bosses. You're completely fine with just the Rattling Scepters and, getting the extra skeletons. They tank a little bit for you as well. Then we still have Sigil of Power, that's our weapon swap. I'm gonna get to the weapon swap a little bit later here. We don't run any supports in this, and ignore the supports and the parry here, that's just from our shield, and these are just for swapping. Then we have the Terracotta Soldier here. A lot of people have been telling me it's fixed, that it doesn't cost 10 spirit. Well, guess what? It still costs 10 spirit. So this is really just for getting an extra 7% of muster support. And also ignore the support gems here. These are also just for switching, so I'm just going to get to that a little bit later. Now we have our main spell, which is Skeletal Frost Mage. So I used to push this to level 36 with Minion Mastery, because at level 36 there will be a breakpoint, and they're gonna have one less spirit reservation. However, the mana cost becomes kind of unmanageable starting at like level 36. So at level 35, it costs 626 mana already. At level 36, it costs like 713 mana, and at some point you just cannot sustain the mana anymore. It's already hard to sustain that 626, so I decided to, move it down one level from 36 to just 35. I know technically I'm wasting 10 spirit on this, but, I don't really need so many Skeletal Frost Mages anyway. And we still run the Spell Echo. I just feel like Spell Echo is the most important for clear and also for DPS. I know they cast a little bit slower, but it's really just a cosmetic effect if you ask me. And this literally just doubles the damage on their command ability. Then we have Feeding Frenzy still for more damage. We still have Muster support. And as you can see, we have 5 different minions, so that's a 35% more damage here. And then the last two are kind of flex. So depending what you do, the last 2 support gems will be different. So in a mapping scenario, I highly recommend going for Last Gasp and mostly Magnified Effect. So Magnified Effect really helps in mapping scenarios. It just makes it, much more relaxed to like clear larger packs of mobs. And Last Gasp I would always use in a mapping scenario, because for example, if you're doing like Ritual or Expedition or whatever, like if you meet like very lots of, you know, monsters in a corrupted map, you know, your skeletons will just die. So I highly recommend doing Last Gasp in a mapping scenario. Also, certain Pinnacle bosses will require you to have Last Gasp, which is, for example, King of the Mist will require you to have this. And also the boss, the Expedition boss, I don't know the name of it, will require you to have Last Gasp. Simulacrum will require Last Gasp. So a lot of Pinnacle boss fights require Last Gasp. However, I have Super Critical in here right now, which is decent. In a map boss scenario, you know, you don't really have to switch anything. But if you're running real boss fights, like tier 4 bosses, like you saw in the introduction, you're going to switch some gems. So for example, if you're going for Xesht, which really doesn't kill your minions, you're going to put in Embitter, for example, because, you know, this just converts all your chaos damage to frost damage. This isn't really worth a lot on maps because minions are not going to be in your presence, but in a map, in like boss fight, in a Pinnacle boss fight, you know, this basically just makes all your damage run through your hypothermia and your exposure. And then you can also always run Blindside here, because we're gonna have a skeletal sniper which will blind stuff. So this is a 15% more crit and 15% more crit bonus, which is also something nice. So if you, for example, would want to run like Xesht, right, which is really easy boss to play, you would really just go for your blindside here, and it's a little bit hard to switch here sometimes, so you would go for blindside and you would go for Embitter. So this is, for example, a very strong bossing setup, because blindside is always going to be active because we have the blind gem here in our skeletal sniper here. And Embitter really just, it gives you the most amount of damage. It's not tooltip damage, but it gives you a lot of damage. But then, you know, if you go back into like mapping scenario, I would play Last Gasp mainly and Magnified Effect. So this is kind of a mapping scenario. Then you have Frost Bomb here, which is really just to apply exposure. You can use it on a map, you can use it on stationary fights, mainly in boss fights. We have Spell Cascade, so we cover more area. We have Strip Away for more exposure. We have Font of Blood, just because, you know, for whatever reason, like it, you know, it gives a little bit life regen to your minions. And we have Cold Mastery here, just to give it like one more level. It can do like a little bit more exposure or whatever. Like it doesn't really do anything here. Then Hypothermia is our main curse. So right now I just have like 4 in it. You can also put like a 5th one in it here if you want, but I don't need one right now. So we go for Heightened Curse. We go for Cursed Ground, because, you know, this is kind of a pre-buffing. Like if we do Pinnacle bosses, we want to have Cursed Ground, and I'm going to explain why in a little bit. Then we have Arcane Surge. I'm also going to explain why in a little bit. And we have Ritualistic Curse here for more area of effect. So you could add improved area of effect if you know, in a boss fight or whatever. If you don't use Magnified Effect in your Skeletal Frost Mage, you can add it here. Which adds more cost, which is actually a good thing. So I'm going to explain it after I'm done with the skills. So then we have Pain Offering, mainly to just buff. So we have Ablation here for more thing. We have Font of Mana, because we want to regenerate more mana while it's active. We have Expanse, because we don't care about this cooldown. So it just, you know, gives the aura a little bit more area of effect. And we have Persistence, so it lasts longer. We removed Dance Macabre here, because we cannot really target. So we have Sacrificial Lamp or our Cleric, right? It will sacrifice 1 Cleric. But if you use Dance Macabre here, you cannot choose which is the second minion sacrifice. So, for example, if it sacrifices your Storm Mage in a boss fight, right, then you're not going to have shocks. You're going to lose 30% damage. That's why I removed that gem, and it's really just a slight damage increase. So this really just sacrifices 1 minion, which is always going to be the Skeletal Storm Mage, the Skeletal Cleric here. So Skeletal Cleric, we have Sacrificial Lamp, as already said, because we want to sacrifice it for our Pain Offering. We have Arcane Tempo, so it heals a little bit faster. We have Minion Mastery, just for an extra level. And we have Death March here, you know, really just because we have a free gem slot. You know, this very rarely will do something, but, you know, it might do something. Storm Mage is basically doing Shock. if you don't have a lot of damage, you know, don't fall for Storm Mage shocking anything. So you really need to have decent gear. You really need to have high damage for the Storm Mage to actually apply shock to bosses and stuff like that. So as you can see, I have like a level 31 Storm Mage with, you know, decent stats, and it will shock stuff. But if you only have like a level 18 Storm Mage, you know what, it's not going to do anything. We use Conduction, so it has more chance to shock. We use Overcharge, so the shock is stronger. It's reflected actually back to the minions, so it really doesn't matter. Then we have Causing Current here, so, you know, it can shock roots of enemies, and we have Lightning Penetration, so it just deals more damage, so it has a better chance to shock. Then we have a Skeletal Sniper here, mainly for our Master support, but this also has some utility. So it has Main, which basically slows mobs. It has Chain, so it basically slows more mobs. It has Blind, because, you know, it can blind mobs, so we can use the blind side support in boss fights here. And it has Fire Mastery, just to give it an extra level to do, you know, gets a little bit more HP and stuff like that. And then we have Convalescence still on our weapon swap. It's not actually gonna swap weapons, so we already talked about this in the last video. So now let's just talk real quick about the weapon swap here. So our weapon swap is Sigil of Power. So if we swap, we have this Sigil of Power, which is mainly for boss damage. As you can see, my minions are all dead now. This is by design because we don't have Spirit. Then the second one we use on weapon slot is Hypothermia. But we actually have this assigned to both weapon sets. So that's important. So if you're pre-buffing for a boss fight now, you just, you know, do a couple of Hypothermias. And you can see the radius is huge and has Curse Ground, so this will curse bosses just fine. And it's also gonna trigger a very long Arcane Surge. So as you can see, my Arcane Surge here is 23 seconds. Because we have all the duration in our skill tree. So this is really helpful if you want to spam Ice Bomb. Because Arcane Surge is going to first of all give you more cast speed. And it's also going to give you more mana regeneration. And it's basically a free gem. Because we just, you know, use it in our Hypothermia curse here. And, you know, it's not really blocking any slot or anything. So let's say we're in a boss fight. We drop Sigil. We drop the Hypothermia. And then usually you would just drop a Frost Bomb here and it will automatically switch. And you're just going to start spamming Frost Bomb. And as you can see, we can basically spam indefinitely as long as we have Arcane Surge ready. Right? As soon as Arcane Surge will be off, we will not be able to spam. So you basically need to have the Font of Mana from your Pain Offering. And you need to have the Arcane Surge. If the Arcane Surge is over, you know, it basically means also your curse is over. You know, you can just do a new curse without weapon swapping, because that's why we have it on both weapon sets. We are not swapping now, so the curse is weaker, but it's still gonna trigger a Arcane Surge at least, so we can keep spamming. So that's kind of the weapon swapping scenario we use here. And the Convalescence you can basically use on your weapon swap. I'm pretty sure you will find a lot of information about how to do that. But that's basically the skills and the setup for doing tier 4 bosses. And also any kind of map content. Also for the gear, obviously we made a bunch of changes. So first of all, I have a High Spirit Scepter here. So this is not the perfect one, but you know, I was sick of waiting to buy a good scepter. So if you have a +4 minion scepter with, you know, decent stats, you know, it would be much better to have minion damage on here and not increase spirit. But you know, I still had to buy this because I was just, you know, I really wanted to get like a decent scepter. So you really can, in this, right now, you can also get like a 130, 140-ish spirit scepter with, you know, a good amount of minion damage, minion crit chance, minion crit bonus is really nice. Minion cast speed is not really nice. It doesn't really do a whole lot. But you can do that. You can socket then Spirit if you want. If you don't want to socket Spirit, I recommend socketing increased damage. It's the strongest thing you can socket here. But yeah, you want to look for like a Scepter, which, you know, roughly like 150 plus Spirit. So then for the other items, it's pretty much still the same. I'm right now using a decent helmet with, you know, some implicit Corrupted Spirit here and +2 minion skills. And you want to try to have maximum life on all of your items, because this is going to become your mana regeneration. And mana regeneration is pretty much everything in this build. Then we have the Sun Splinter here with +4 of cold skills. So you don't have to get a +4, you can also get a +3. If you get a +3, you can also get it with 2 sockets, and you can also socket the rune, which changes, you know, requirements to intelligence. If you have really good gear though, you don't want to change your requirements, because intelligence is literally going to do absolutely nothing for you in this build. So I really just push my attribute so I can use the dexterity, and I basically just socket extra mana regeneration in this shield, right? We can do this because we have a lot of attributes from our other gear. If you don't have a lot of attributes, you know, feel free to socket the rune here, which gives you intelligence instead of dexterity requirement. But if you really can get away with socketing mana regeneration into this shield, I would socket mana regeneration in this shield. Then for my amulet, you still want to do mental toughness. It's just going to reduce the mana cost by 15%, which is absolutely necessary if you want to spam ice bombs at a high mana cost. Energy shield is really nice on an amulet, so you can get a high energy shield flat roll and a high energy shield roll. It's really going to help your survivability a lot. You want to have cast speed, you want to have minion skills. Maximum life is a bonus. Obviously, if you can get spirit, that's obviously very, very nice. I just don't have any more cash to buy another spirit amulet here. But in reality, you know, you would probably not want to have all rest here. Instead of that, you would want to have spirit on here. Then for a chest piece, you know, we just go for high energy shield with spirit and resistances. So this is a decent piece. I bought this at 2 sockets and corrupted it into 3, which actually made it nice. Then we have our rings. So our rings are mainly to push cast speed, attributes, and resistances, and mana regeneration. So mana regeneration, high mana regeneration, really important. On the second ring also I have 82% mana regeneration, right? And maximum life is always nice to pick up because maximum life is also going to increase your mana regeneration. So the priority is always going to be percent mana regeneration and then maximum life. Those two things are going to fix your mana. Maximum mana really doesn't do anything at all in this build. Then for the boots, same story. You know, you just want to have like some boots. I pick up high energy shield with some chaos resistance and maximum life. Same for the gloves. I pick up chaos resistance, attributes here, dexterity to just equip my gear. Again, maximum life, and I try to get, you know, some high energy shield, and I even socket some mana regeneration here as well. For the belt, it's like still an old belt without even charm slots, but you want to focus on high max life, attributes like strength and double resistances. So as you can see, I have attributes on my gloves, on my belt, on my ring. I don't have them on the other ring. I think I have some on my amulet, and that's already enough to carry. I have them in the chest piece as well. So I think you need like roughly 4 items with attribute to carry this without, you know, removing requirements. You can also, you know, probably get away with like having at least, you know, 2 less items with attributes because we're gonna have a lot of attributes on our skill tree we don't need. But this is pretty much the gear I'm running right now. So improvement would be, I'm not gonna improve anymore, but if I would want to improve, it would be the amulet. And then for like easier bosses, like stationary bosses, for example, like King of the Mist first phase, or, you know, Xesht, or the expedition boss, I always forget the name. You can run Bones of Ul with, you know, you can get them corrupted with more reduced reservation. So if you put these on, as you can see, I have 10 Frost Mages right now. If you put these on, you can push up to 16 Frost Mages. You can see. I won't be able to spam through 16 Frost Bombs, but the Frost Mages themselves, they do quite a bit of damage. So if you really don't need the movement speed in like certain fights, you can put these on. But, you know, on a regular map, obviously you wouldn't do this. But this is a nice swap to carry around for the stronger bosses. Alright, let's take a look at the skill tree. So we modified a lot here in favor of just removing minion survivability for minion damage. So the Ascendancy we still play exactly the same, right? We still go Eternal Life, we still have our double minion damage jewel in here, and we're still going for the Necromantic Conduit here. And now let's start what we actually do. So we changed back from the energy shield route here, back to the minion damage route. We pick up cast speed. If you struggle with mana, ditch the cast speed, just get the mana regeneration here. And we go into the energy shield, and we remove these minion survivability nodes. We pick up this increased skill effect duration, which is really a nice to have. Then we still pick up these energy shield and mana regeneration nodes, so I kind of opted for these nodes instead of these nodes here at the top, because a mana regeneration is really important if you want to use this build for boss fights. Then one more thing we did here is we changed this and picked up the 8% increased attack and cast speed and the 10% damage. I'm still not sure if it's going to be worth these 3 nodes. One thing you can do for a little bit more utility is you can remove these 3 nodes and put them into the skill effect duration here to have it always on, which I think is the better deal because I think this doesn't really do all that much. And then you can also finish this one on your secondary weapon swap if you want. What else did we change? So we removed some clutter nodes here. You can also get the exposure nodes if you want to, remove some more survivability. So you could also remove like some of these nodes here for the exposure nodes if you really want to just go for crazy cold damage here. We didn't change anything here at the top. This one is still picking up exposure and the +1 cold skills. We removed the minion area of effect. It seems to be, we don't need wizard. It's really not going to do a whole lot. And, we removed the area of effect just for more burst damage. You can definitely get this back if you're just doing maps. But, if you want to do like Pinnacle boss fights, this is really not needed at all. We still obviously get the reduced reservation. And the more we change this, we removed this one little node. I actually saw this at a Gazi's guide, and I was like, yeah, this is like a no-brainer. I never like really thought about that I can actually remove this node. But yeah, you can actually remove one of these. So that's a fair take there. Then in this cluster, we really just picked the damage. We ditched the resistances, the maximum life. As you can see, we just removed a bunch of survivability. We're still picking up the jewel slots. And then we go down here to the bottom and just get like these minion damage nodes here, which just, do a lot of damage. Like this is a very strong node. So since we removed a lot of survivability, we just put this back in. Also, again, if you want to do mapping, you can remove this entire cluster here and get back into the minion chaos resistance you get here to just have a little bit more minion survivability. And you can still get back into, these nodes here if you want. But, I don't really need it in high profile fights. On a map, yeah, my minions might die. But this is really like more like a pure damage setup now. And, the weapon swap is still focused around duration and, curses, right? So we have curses here, we have duration here, we have duration here, and this one is the empty wheel for curses here. So if you want to pick up these in your main weapon, you can definitely do that and finish this. It's probably going to be a slightly better setup. But yeah, so this is mainly for level 93 character. Pretty much focused on a lot of minion damage, and with this new routing here, we have a lot of more attribute points. So as you can see, I have a lot of strength nodes here and a lot of dex nodes. So I'm basically picking all dex to equip my shield, right? So this requires 100. Again, you can remove requirements from this if you want, but I do not need it. And then we need basically everything else in strength and int. So we need int to use our skellies. Right, they need 205 int. So this is exactly the attributes I have. I have exactly 205 int. I have exactly 105. I would need 101, but I have 105 dexterity to equip my shield. And everything else I would pump into strength. So strength basically gives life, and life gives mana regeneration. So I tried removing this, right, for 20 more strengths, but 20 more strengths gives a little bit less mana regeneration than the 18% on the shield. So that's why I opted for, removing the requirements conversion here in the shield and just put in the extra mana regeneration. And, we really don't need anything other with the intelligence. As you can see, our resistance are decent. I'm a little bit low on the chaos end because I'm, running the fire resistance. So I could remove these 2 mana regeneration nodes, for example, for, chaos resistance nodes if you really care about it. But I ended up, I have enough survivability to basically do all the content I want, but you can definitely go a little bit more defensive. And for the jewels, I still try to pick up jewels with energy shield, mana regeneration, minion damage, and minion crit chance. Right, so this is kind of the jewels I have. There's another one, energy shield, mana regeneration, minion damage, minion crit. Here's another one, energy shield, mana regeneration, minion damage, minion crit bonus. Crit bonus is also okay, chance is a little bit better. Here's another one, energy shield, mana regen, minion damage, minion crit chance. So that's kind of the jewels I'm picking up. And the big jewel here, I have one with high energy shield, high mana rec, minion damage, and minion critical hit chance as well. So since a lot of people are asking me what Atlas I play, I feel like the Atlas is completely irrelevant. It doesn't really do a whole lot. Like all these nodes, like essences, strong boxes, like that's all useless. Like, all these exiles and whatever, like it's all completely useless. So I'm basically just going for anything with like quantity and effect. So I'm getting like all these, quantity nodes here. these Waystone effect nodes here. And then I'm going for the extra magic monsters here. I'm going for the extra pack size, extra rare monsters. I duplicate one rare monster. This one would probably the next two will be getting here. Or maybe I want to go into the tablets here next. I only have like 24, 40 points. It just takes forever to get them. Basically, you want to have unstable energies. All the other waste, like the keystones here, are completely garbage. And, you know, if you have more points, you probably want to go into like these tablet effect ones here. They are kind of strong. You know, I don't even know if this is any good. So really, it's probably just, you know, like these like 5 or 6 nodes, which will matter. Simulacrum, like these points don't do anything at all, basically. For Delirium, I have these points, which I feel like are quite good. Then I have pretty much standard breach nodes here, and these are like my expedition nodes. I'm still missing the last boss one. I still haven't found the third citadel, but you want to probably get this corruption here. And Arbiter I didn't even do yet. I just don't have the currency right now. I'm pretty much done with the season. I'm pretty disappointed with the whole Atlas. It's just so meaningless. You barely feel like any effect of these nodes at all. So I would not recommend to like sweat all these Atlas nodes. I would just really get like this stuff at the bottom and then try to get into these tablets. If you even get there, because, you know, just to fill out like your Atlas, it's going to take so freaking long. Most of the unique maps are bugged. You cannot even finish them. So I don't even know if I would go here. Definitely here, get the pack size. But, you know, these pack size nodes here are also decent. These more magic monsters are not bad. These ones do not matter. But, you know, you can get increased effect of Waystone modifiers, increased rarity, right? So you can basically also just finish like everything here on the bottom and completely ditch the top, which is probably also alright, because if you're not gonna reach the 40 points, you basically take garbage nodes to get here, and at the bottom here, you're not gonna take any garbage nodes. So if you only have like 24 points like me, it's probably better to just, you know, fill out these clusters here at the bottom. Alright, how do you use my trade links? So first of all, you will find trade links either in the Mobalytics planner. If you scroll down, you will see a section trade links. It's in the section how it works. And you will also find it in the YouTube video description. You will find the trade links. So a couple of things to work with trade links. So let's just open one here, for example, the Scepter +3. So my trade links always work the same way. You're gonna end up on a page which looks like this. And you're always going to have weighted sums which you want to sort. So if you look at the settings, you will see basically the filters I set, and you will see the budget. So sometimes it will be empty, sometimes this will be 100 exalts or whatever. So you basically want to choose, hey, what is my budget? How much do I want to spend for, in this case, a scepter? Let's just say you want to spend 20 exalts for a scepter, and you do search. And then you will find the ones for 1 exalt, obviously, which you don't want. And then you always sort by this larger weighted sum here. And once you sort, you will see, okay, this is the best items which are for 20 exalts, right? And now if you see these are all 20 exalts, right? So you want to start scrolling down until you find something which is maybe more in your budget. Because you know what? Maybe you find a good deal. This one has 308, this one has 314. So these are not very different from my weighting standpoint. But this one only costs half. So whenever you see something in the weighted sum which makes no sense, like this one, for example, right? It's 1 exalt 10 minutes ago. This is a great deal. You want to buy this. Even though it might not be perfect, you know, you can save a lot of exalts for other gear. And since these filters are already high level, right? This one is only a 318 sum. You might want to consider, if you have the currency, either switching this to like 100 exalts, right? And you will see much better ones. You will see some 400 here, which has 157 spirit and a lot of good stats. And you want to consider putting this to Divine Orb. So currently there's no good filter to filter for equivalents. You only get garbage. So you might also want to say, hey, I maybe want also spend a maximum of 2 Divine Orbs. And then here you see the best one is 486, right? So this is always the same way how you work with my filters. You will always find a weighted sum, and sometimes for armor pieces, it will be relevant to do energy shield. So let's, for example, go for the high energy shield helmet, for example. So this is made for like 100 exalt, so this is made for expensive items now. So let's say your budget is only 10, right? You're not gonna find anything because sometimes I have energy shield filters. So if you don't find anything because there's energy shield filters, then you just lower the energy shield filter and you see, okay, this is one item for 10 exalt, might be a good deal. But you might also lower it to like something like 180 then. And you will see items popping up in your budget. So just adjust the filters to fit your budget and buy the gear you want. Don't get crazy on very expensive gear. Most of the time, the last 10% in gear quality cost you a fortune. So the difference between a 10 exalt gear and a 50 exalt gear might just be 5 to 10% in actual character power. But yeah, that's just a short introduction on how to work with my trade filters. I hope you find this useful, and let's go on with the guide.
Silver storm